G'day there guys, thinks that listening to lo-fi hip-hop 24/7 chill beats to relax to is a personality trait. Back at it again with another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love the content like I love you, then I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody good content. Posted by user Lightning Struh, titled, "Am I the a-hole for raining on my cousin's parade?" regarding the name she picked out for her baby. My cousin Stephanie and I are really more friends than relatives. An important note is that she's not really online much, so can be out of the loop on certain memes and jokes in internet culture, and to be honest, doesn't really understand the concept of viral internet references or how they work. Stephanie is pregnant and just found out it's going to be a girl. About a week ago, she told a gathering of her best friends that she's going to name her daughter Karen. The room instantly went cold. But after an awkward silence, everyone else said politely that it was lovely. I couldn't bring myself to respond at all. Later in the evening, when Stephanie was out of the room, everyone was like, "Oh my god, that poor kid. Why would she pick Karen of all names?" I was uncomfortable with this conversation, given that everyone had been so positive about the name to her face. I thought more about it over the next couple of days, and just felt really weird about the whole thing. The name is really loaded, to the point it could be detrimental to the baby, and Stephanie had no idea of the connotations to make an informed decision. So, a couple of days later, I tentatively brought it up, and I told her that I was so excited for the baby, and just wanted her to have all the information available when picking a name. I then started to explain that Karen has some negative connotations, and has become sort of an internet joke to describe a specific kind of entitled middle-aged woman. Stephanie was instantly furious, and started talking over me saying, "Why are you saying this? This is so mean." I was really surprised by her reaction. It felt very, very out of character. So I immediately stopped and said, "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I just wanted to tell you something I thought you might not know." She replied, "That's the name I picked for my daughter, and you think I picked it as some kind of joke? I don't understand why you would say something so hurtful." When she said that, I felt like it signaled that she really didn't understand what I was trying to tell her. So after agonizing for a second about whether to press the issue, even though she was so angry, I felt like in for a penny, in for a pound. And since she was already mad, I wanted her to at least understand what I was trying to explain to her. I googled "Karen know your meme" on my phone, and tried to show her the screen results while saying, "Look, I'm just saying that there's more meaning to the name than you may realize." She stood up, pushed my phone away, and shouted, "Wow." She then stormed out of my home and drove away. My aunt and mum have been berating me all week because Stephanie told me that I made fun of her baby name. Stephanie has not spoken to me or responded to my texts since. I can take a hint, and I'm not going to broach a topic again that caused so much stress, but I keep going back and forth on whether I was the a-hole here by bringing it up in the first place. I'm going to go with everyone sucks here on this one. I was going to say that they're not the a-hole because they were trying to help someone out, but at the end of the day, it is your child's name. You are free to name your child whatever you want to name your child. Although I think not being willing to accept what someone's saying and being able to see what they want you to see so that you're ready for whatever comes to you in the future, because, you had an entire room go cold on you. You are in denial in this point. I think you're an a-hole for reacting in the way you did, though I don't blame you, but it doesn't absolve you of the fact that you're an a-hole, and I think OP is an a-hole for continuing to press the issue when it was obvious for the 2 instances before the last time that she shouldn't have pushed the issue. Edit. Thanks everyone. I have been properly schooled, and I accept my judgment that I was the a-hole here. Stephanie and I have a history of being extremely open and honest with each other. I was the maid of honor in her wedding, which we planned on being the case from a young age, and we always joked as teenagers that part of my duties would include taking her out of the marriage if the groom she picked sucked. And so maybe I was too flippant with approaching this topic due to our history, and was unempathetic in understanding how much she was already invested in the name she chose for her future daughter. I admit, I'm a bit frustrated that Stephanie still doesn't understand what I was trying to tell her. She thinks I was making some kind of weird, cruel joke, accusing her of picking the name as a joke. But I've messaged her a sincere apology that she accepted, and I will never speak of this again, to Stephanie or baby Karen. I'll also stand up for Stephanie if her other friends crap talk the name around me again. If they're not willing to voice their thoughts to Stephanie directly, they need to not say the kind of things they were saying behind her back. Edit 2. One more thing. I definitely was not trying to tell Stephanie to not name her daughter Karen. I just wanted her to make the decision either way, knowing the connotations, since I'd want someone to do the same for me if I picked a baby name with cultural baggage I wasn't aware of. I realize now I handled it poorly and was hurtful to tell Stephanie in the process, but I just wanted to be clear that I wasn't actively trying to talk her out of the name. I just didn't want her to be blindsided if it came up later. Same as if my last name was Malat and they wanted to name me Ivan. I wouldn't be too happy with being that kid, you know? You're the a-hole. You really think it's going to matter when this kid's older? It's a meme. Oh, and for anyone pregnant or planning to have kids, this is why you don't reveal the name until they're born. Someone's always got something stupid to say, no matter what. Yeah, precisely. Internet memes come and go in a flash. I think OP is massively exaggerating the likelihood that the associations will stick around. My son will be born any minute now, and literally due date is tomorrow. And around Christmas, we told everyone that his name will be Eli Maxwell Sargent. Oh my god, my wife's side of the family went crazy because we did not give him a family name on her side and shunned us for like 4 months. In this case, I beg to differ. It has been a year since this post, possibly a bit longer, like 1.5, years, and the name Karen is stronger than ever now. I feel like the Karen meme is one that is going to stick around for a long time. You're the a-hole. I am aware of the Karen meme, but come on, it's a totally normal name. I can't believe so many of you would take a meme so seriously. It's not like a kid was going to be called Pepe. Pepe is the middle name. Nice. Update by Lightning Strur. Titled, Update, Am I the a-hole for raining on my cousin's parade regarding the name she picked out for her baby? My post last summer wasn't the most exciting or dramatic on Am I the a-hole, but I wanted to provide an update if anyone is interested. Baby Karen was born healthy and happy back in October. She's an absolute sweetheart of a baby, and I'm totally in love with her. Between March and May, I didn't get to see her at all in person, but I was doing regular FaceTime/house party calls with Stephanie and Karen, and over the last few weeks, I've been going over to Stephanie's house to sit in her backyard and chat with Stephanie/coo at Karen from a lengthy distance. I have 2 reasons for updating. First, I've realized since Karen's birth that her name has taken on new meaning to me. When I'm with her, Karen just means her, and I don't think about the other connotations. In other words, you guys were right. That said though, my second reason for updating is that Stephanie got back into her years unused Facebook at the beginning of the pandemic to keep in touch with people. She's been on it pretty regularly lately for the first time in years. Historically, she's not really been into social media. Most people in our area/social circle have been posting really heavily about Black Lives Matter and the protests happening right now, as well as racial justice issues more generally. As a result, Stephanie now has come into contact with a deluge of Karen memes for the first time, and found them confusing and horrifying, especially the use of Karen as shorthand for a racist. I've basically just declined to talk about it with Stephanie because it went so poorly the last time, but both my mother and her mother have hounded me about it because it's upsetting to Stephanie, and said things like, "Is this what you were talking about before? Why didn't you say so? Why didn't you explain it better? You should have told Stephanie." And Jesus wept. You really can't win. Thanks again for all of your feedback on my last post. It was very helpful in giving me some zen about the situation. Edit. Wow, I have been super overwhelmed by the flood of very kind, heartfelt PMs, and just 1 or 2 not so kind ones, as well as the other comments on my post. Thank you, everyone. It continually amazes me how many nice and empathetic people frequent subs devoted to a-holes. And they locked the comments for this one. That sucks. But yeah, I don't think anyone could have predicted that Karen meme was going to transcend into the form it was today from last summer. No one could have predicted that. OP couldn't have predicted that. They can't be the a-hole in this situation because it changed. That's not how it works. You can't have silence and then also complete explanation when someone's in denial, you idiots. Both those mothers are such idiots for not accepting that. They just want someone to lay blame on, and screw them. Screw them. Hosted by user AmiTheA Lost Wife. Titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my grieving husband if he has feelings for his best friend? Throwaway because some friends know my u/. I'll leave out a few details because the whole thing is already painful to talk about. English is not my first language. My 27 female husband, a 29 male, is kind, funny, and handsome. So he's always been quite popular. We usually hang out with the same 10 to 15 people he's close with, but 6 years ago, he met a guy his age, B, at a work conference with various companies. Said guy was extremely smart, cute, a bit more reserved, but still just as lovable. They immediately hit it off, and after a year, even started calling themselves soulmates. Soon enough, it was given in our group that my husband and his newfound best friend wouldn't usually do an activity without each other. B would often stop by our place as well, and our kids, 6 male, 4 female, and I enjoyed his visits because he was such a sweetheart. Unfortunately, just 3 years ago, B died in a serious accident because of a drunk driver. Our family was obviously crushed by the news. I gave my husband the space he needed and offered him all the help and support I could give, but I started to worry after the first year. Then I got frustrated after the second year. Now it's my 3rd year and I'm going crazy because it just doesn't seem normal to me. He's always been a doting father, but he hasn't played with our kids more than once during those 3 years. I often see him spacing out and looking and holding things that belonged to B. He wakes up in the middle of the night and leaves the bedroom to cry. I feel like he doesn't see me, or more importantly, our kids anymore. Like everything stopped mattering. And while he keeps working the same hours, I've been told by one of his closest friends, who works at the company, that the quality of his work constantly deteriorates. I assumed that maybe the issue runs deeper than I'd thought, and asked him if he'd be ready to go to therapy, but nada. Soon after we had dinner, while the kids were at his sister's, she lives next door, and he gave me attention, which I appreciated, but while we were kissing, he broke down and shut himself in our bedroom, while constantly apologizing. The day after, I sat him down and asked him seriously if it's possible that he's had romantic feelings for B. He went off on me, said that I was out of line, that I'm ridiculous for being jealous of his best friend who's forever gone, that I should know he's straight and that he's disappointed in me. I feel like I deserved to express my concerns after such a long time, but a lot of our friends, who know how sensible the situation is and how devastated my husband is, think I should have never said something that intrusive and speculative. They've called me an a-hole for doing this to him. So, am I the a-hole for saying such a thing to my husband, considering all that's happened? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no, I don't think you're an a-hole. He's your husband, he's very close to you, and there shouldn't be secrets and hidden emotions like that in such a strong and bonded relationship. I don't blame him for lashing out like that, but I do think that counseling needs to be done. I also think it's possible to, be straight and still have a love for someone that is deep like that. Although you're not going to be intimate with them, you can still love someone. If it's a guy, you can still love them. That's possible without being gay. I think he knows that, and I think he's just going through grief right now, and that's perfectly human. That's perfectly acceptable. I don't think the husband is the a-hole either, in all honesty. I did actually say before that I thought he was an a-hole, but it's a reaction from grief, and you can't blame someone that's still trying to process their emotions. As bad a reaction that may have been, I don't think I can blame him either. No a-holes here. Your friends don't know what you know. Whether your husband was in love with his friend or not, it's a problem that everything stopped mattering when he died, and that he can no longer show affection to his children or his wife. Therapy is really a must at this point, and I think if he won't go, you should go yourself and get some advice about how to approach this serious crisis. Thank you for your advice. What made me uncertain is that most of our friends actually share the same thoughts. We've discussed my husband's state to figure out how to help him, and they implied that he must have cared for B in more ways than we thought, even if he never realized. It showed at different instances that we all witnessed. So they kind of know. They just think it should be left unsaid, but the thing is, I don't mind if he happens to be in love with B at this point. I just want my family to be better. Oh, that's interesting. I completely disagree. You can't leave something unsaid if it's jeopardizing both your marriage and your husband's relationship with his children. None of you can go on like this for another 3 years. If you won't go into therapy, I think it's fair for her to start putting herself and her children first. This marriage and family life sound miserable. He won't talk about it or make an effort to deal with it. It's understandable up to a point, but enough time has passed that his actions are clearly selfish now. I'm not trying to villainize him by calling him selfish. He's clearly struggling, but this isn't a healthy life for him or his family, and it's not fair to them. She cannot fold up the relationship herself. If a spouse refuses to go to counseling and therapy, they have ceased to participate in said relationship. Do they know the extent that he's abandoned his family? It might be hard for them to grasp the situation, because materially speaking, he's still here. He still comes to parent-teacher reunions, or pays the kids' lunches, but he doesn't spend more time than necessary with them, whereas before, he would spend hours and hours hugging them and carrying them around while playing with them. So, my kids deeply feel his absence, especially the oldest one who spent 3 years being coddled by my husband, who was a mother hen, while my friends don't necessarily feel that. But that is to say, they do know things are dire. We're all very close. Some of the girls have tried to make him realize how much he's been affected. His childhood best friend has tried to mention therapy. It's like he's become a wall since B is gone. This is a first for all of us. Even if he had romantic feelings for the guy, apparently it didn't reflect on feelings towards children, which is completely normal too. They are his loved children. The fact that he stopped paying attention to them after the guy died has therefore nothing to do with if they were or weren't romantically involved. It didn't interfere with his love for children. It is plain and simple result of trauma. Inability to do work, enjoy things, show connection might be associated with severe depression. Depressions are results of biochemical problems that do not go away by themselves. They need meds on top of behavioral therapy. This would explain why this state lasts, and will continue to last. People with severe depression also unlikely to seek therapy. They have no energy or motivation for that. It doesn't matter what was between these guys. Your husband needs professional help, and not from therapist, but psychiatrist. You need to contact one, explain what's going on, and ask how to better offer help/convince. This is a primary problem, not the relationship to a dead friend. Depressions are extremely severe conditions, and often deadly if untreated. Luckily, they are also very responsive to treatment. I'm so sorry for your situation. Update. Am I the a-hole for asking my grieving husband if he has feelings for his best friend? I thought I'd give an update for all the kind people who asked for one. The original post with a few details in the comments. So, as you all suggested, I sat my husband down and asked if he was okay, if he had the time and mental space to talk to me, etc. I apologized for what I implied, said it was inappropriate, irrelevant, and it wasn't my place to say anything on his relationship with B. But then he broke down, to my confusion, and started apologizing to me, saying he did have feelings for B, that I'm not delusional and stupid, that he's just been gaslighting me. I disagree. Not going to give all the details, but hubby found out after B's death that B had feelings for him, and it turned out to be mutual, to his shock. He said the sudden loss and what he realized basically made him go into a very dark place where he felt unworthy of everyone, including his children, B, and I. He needed to talk about it, but was terrified of losing us. Knowing my husband, I kind of saw it coming and regret that he's only confessed to it now because I never would have resented him for loving someone. And B's gone. It's just a lot of heartbreak for everyone. So, I insisted on therapy again and husband agreed. And he's okay, thankfully. He did have way too much on his plate, but he's already faring much better now that he's finally opened up. I wouldn't blame anyone for being trapped in a cycle of self-hate after all of this. He also mentioned his parents' death too, very briefly. This all felt liberating because we finally came back to our before, where we'd share and discuss everything freely. One surprise, though, is that I ended up being diagnosed. I am depressed. To be honest, I'm still puzzled because I come from a traditional Asian family where depression is a myth, but I guessed I'd never questioned myself because I was just always too busy to. Parents abandoned me when I was 5, became a barrister at 21, worked 80 hours a week, taking care of my kids, charity work, and you know what the funniest part is? I'm extremely lazy. Every second I fight the urge to lie down somewhere and sleep forever. I have these random moments where I question the relevance of it all, but they all seem insignificant in light of everything I could lose. I'm okay. I never felt like reaching a breaking point. My husband has been feeling guilty, so I slapped some sense into him and told him I'm not cancerous. We also had a talk with the kids. My oldest has been radiant since then. Youngest also likes to follow my husband around like a baby chick now. I've been an in-house counsel, so twice as less work hours, which is really cool too. Yeah, I don't know, a lot of changes, but none of them feel overwhelming. Life might be a beer, especially now, but I feel grateful. Yes, I sound like a cheesy moron. Thank you so much for your help, everyone. Edits, I might not be able to reply to every single one of you in the thread, but I want to make sure to thank you all for your support and wholesomeness. I'm genuinely touched, and thank you for the awards, kind strangers. Thanks for the update. So is your husband just now coming to the realization that he's bisexual? Where does your marriage go from here? In that he fell in love with someone else while married to you? Hi. A lot of other comments addressed this elephant in the room. It's been almost 2 months, so my husband and I did have a lot of free time to discuss all of this, especially during lockdown. I'll try to make it short. My husband still doesn't specifically identify as bisexual. B was the one and only man he's ever had feelings for. He said that apart from B, he really would not picture himself with a man. This despite being able to picture himself with B. Some people may be skeptical about my husband's conclusions on his sexuality, but his identity is his own to define, and this is the one thing I will respect for sure. Also, trust me, bi erasure is the last thing I'd want to encourage. We already read up a lot on different labels recently, on top of what we already know. We know bisexuality doesn't imply an even sexual attraction to both men and women, etc. He just doesn't identify as bi as of now, and that's okay. About him falling in love while being married to me? It hurts, yes. I cried about it, yes. I know many are concerned with how I seem to neglect my own feelings, but I can assure you that I won't deny those, despite being a bit awkward about emotions. Obviously, in a perfect world, by my own terms, my husband would only have eyes for me, but I know my husband still loves me very deeply, and while he did me wrong these last few years, he's also a very honest man who would have openly tried to make it right by everyone had B not died. Let's say that in some other dimension, he would have wanted to end up with B. He would have told me, despite how hurtful it could have been. Maybe there would have been drama, tears and all. Yeah. But B died, and B and I are the only ones my husband is truly in love with. We both know that. There's no way to bring B back and come up with what would have been the best for all three of us. So we're staying married, simply because we do love each other as husband and wife, and because our little family is the most amazing cocoon we've ever built. I have no hard feelings when life gets in the way like that. I know it sounds like a very simple way to see things, but that's how I think, and I'm plenty happy. I don't want to get a divorce, he doesn't want to. Why should we then? Also, I know people have varying definitions of love. A few years ago, had someone told me it's so hard being in love with two people at once, I would have snorted or frowned, probably. I totally understand if some end up saying they aren't convinced by our sentiment. Posted by user Bush Did the Main, titled, "Am I the a-hole for taking the hard drive from the Xbox after I was forced to give it up to my sister and her friends?" So, I, 23 male, am currently living with my parents after I had to leave my house due to situations out of my control. I had planned on being back out by now, but COVID put a delay on my new job, so I have to wait it out. I play Xbox almost every night with my old school friends, almost all whom have moved out of the States due to military and jobs. My father bought the Xbox for me in Christmas of 2013, but I bought the external hard drive and every game that's on it. My sister, 19, has a group of friends over to our house at least twice a week. Every time they come over, I'm expected to give up the Xbox to her and her friends. I didn't mind it at first, but like I said above, they eventually began to come over several times a week. So today, me and my friends were planning a big game night since everyone was off of work. And of course, my sister is having friends over too, and I'm told to get off. Now, part of the reason I'm irritated is because everything in my life has been like this. My sister is my dad's favorite child, and he doesn't even try to hide it. She hasn't paid for anything in her life and doesn't have a job. My mum, on the other hand, just hates the confrontation. She forces the outcome that will lead to less of a fight and less noise, which is always the outcome that my sister wants, because I'll be quiet even if I'm angry, whereas my sister will blow up the house with fits of rage. So today I put my foot down and said no. My friends and I have been planning this all week, and I'm not getting off because my sister's brought people over without warning. Per usual, my dad was furious because my sister was furious, and my mum was furious because we were ruining her night. My dad said that since he paid for the Xbox, he decided who could play it, and that was that. So I decided to play his game, gave up the Xbox to my sister, but took the hard drive and all the games with me, rendering the Xbox useless from a gaming standpoint. Within minutes, my dad was in my room, demanding to know why the Xbox suddenly wasn't working. I told him that I paid for the hard drive and all the games on it, and I could decide who used it. They were more than welcome to use the Xbox that he bought now. This led to a big fight, with me being called immature and that I shouldn't ruin their night because I didn't get what I wanted, to which I pointed out that no one cared that my night was ruined since Daddy's little princess got what she wanted. It was a doozy. A fight that has been building up ever since I was a kid and was too scared to stand my ground against my father's favoritism. Now that I've cooled off a bit, I do feel like the whole thing may have been immature on my part, but I'm just so tired of being forced to give up what I want multiple times a week because my younger sister demands it, and with no backup from either of my parents. Am I the a-hole? Big, fat no. Your sister is an immature little brat and deserves to have the flame coming her way. It's been a long time coming. You do not deserve that kind of bullcrap from your parents. I'm surprised you haven't moved out and started a life for yourself, as hard as that is, but with the way the world is right now, I don't blame you for staying home and staying secure. Dear Lord, I wouldn't want to be in that situation because that is a whole kettle of fish I don't want to be fried in. Or boiled, because it's a kettle, but you know, same difference, right? Your family needs a reality check. That is disgusting on everyone's behalf. Dear Lord. I'm leaning towards not the a-hole for the actions. So you had an evening planned and she had friends over unannounced. Ruins your plans, and it's unreasonable when you had plans to play with your friends from everywhere. Pulling the external is in a sense malicious compliance. If the rules are you bought, you decide, well yeah, not the a-hole. For the fighting and arguing, it might be everyone sucks here, but it sounds like it needed to happen. Well, it sounds like something needed to happen, and this is what happened. Your sister has been taught that behavior is okay, but she's old enough now to at least see the favoritism. Mum wants to keep the peace, which is admirable, until most of the burden lays on one person. Dad and you obviously fought. I wonder if there are underlying issues going on, like if he feels you need to be doing other things and taking the Xbox is punishment for not doing them. This sounds like more than the Xbox issue. Yeah, this is clearly a much bigger issue, but OP is not the a-hole for removing hard drive and games. Honestly, the dad is an a-hole for thinking he can take back gifts whenever he likes, and for getting annoyed when people use his own logic against him. OP, you really should have a discussion with your dad about his favoritism before you move out. I agree. The overall issue of an Xbox is kind of an immature, however, what it represents is so much more. A sit-down discussion with dad is what is needed. I'd be asking, why is it okay from his perspective for me to give up my night with friends, but immature for me to do the same? I would think of all his possible replies, which might even be as ridiculous as "my house, my rules," and be prepared with comebacks. I would sit down and come up with a few examples of things that have happened over the years, and explain that moving forward, having always been placed second best to my sister, that when things go back to normal, I won't be continuing a close relationship. Not the a-hole. OP said that their dad cheated on OP's mom so they could point out how they betrayed their wife and are now betraying their child. Well, where did that come from? Here's one reply from OP. Oh yeah, it's absolutely more than an Xbox issue. There is so much more that could be included in a 3,000 word or less Reddit post. Like how my father has come to resent me ever since I discovered he was cheating on my mum, and had a second family, and kept him at arm's length because of it, and one of the reasons he is much closer to my sister is because she never treated him differently once she found out. I was 12 when I found out, she was 16. What? I thought she was the younger sister. He has protected her, calling him out on his crap, where I almost had to protect my mother and act as her therapist from a very young age. Okay, I'm gonna guess that they found out at different times. She's the younger sister, but she found out like 8 or 9 years later. That's how I'm gonna rationalize that. And he has always hated how much she has told me, and even when I didn't want to know. So yeah, a lot of fun family crap that goes far beyond an Xbox issue, lol. I just wanted to know if I was the a-hole for being petty. You're definitely not the a-hole, and I'm sorry you've gone through all that. As soon as you're able, get the hell out of that house. Frankly, I'm not sure you should ever go back. Good luck. P.S. Your dad's an arsehole and your sister seems to be taking after daddy. Update. Am I the a-hole for taking the hard drive from my Xbox after I was forced to give it up to my sister and her friends? So, I didn't really have any intention of making an update, but some stuff happened again, so I figured I might as well. Especially since there were some requests for an update on the original post. Since the events of the first post, my sister has had friends over another 4 times. 2 of the times, they went out in the backyard for a bonfire, 1 time they used the Xbox while I wasn't using it, so who cares, and another time was a near identical situation as the first post. Was playing with friends around 3 nights ago. First time that week due to the work schedules, and my sister and a group of 5 teenagers came downstairs. My sister stares at me, her idea of being funny, and when she realized I was ignoring her, said that her and her friends wanted to use it. I told her I was currently using it, and I'd be done in an hour or 2, in which they could use it if they wanted. Of course, that wasn't good enough. So she threatened to get my father involved again. I told her that, just like last time, I would take my property and they wouldn't get to play at all, because I wasn't going to back down, so she can either try it, or just wait another hour and they were free to use it. I went on to say things were opening up now, and they had other options, things that didn't involve forcing me to cancel socializing with my own friends. It's also important to note that her friends have always been uncomfortable with this situation, many times even taking my side, trying to convince my sister that they could just hang out for an hour and they didn't need the Xbox right this second, but it usually falls on deaf ears. Knowing that my father wasn't home, she instead went to my mother, who, per usual, told me in an exhausted tone to just let her have it since she has friends over. I said no, and that I told her she could have it when I was done in an hour or so. We went back and forth for a few minutes, eventually concluding with my mother telling my sister to just wait, and she was not happy. You would have thought she was 4 years old, and just told no for the first time, whining and screaming about fairness and whatnot that gave me a headache that will last the rest of my life, but I ignored her. An hour later, my friends got off and handed it over to my sister, who had an incredibly smug look on her face, while her friends quietly thanked me. I may have been a bit of an a-hole in saying, "See where your patience gets you?" but I don't frankly care. So that's about it. Wasn't as explosive as last time, so hopefully things are changing, but I'm sure it would have been different if my father was home. The 3,000 character limit makes me leave out some details that I apparently can't continue in the comments, so I'll answer questions anyone may have. Thanks for the replies and support on the original post. Was definitely surprised with the reception it received. Info. Have you spoken to your father about his favoritism and how it affects your relationship with him? I know you say that it is obvious, but sometimes these things are not as obvious to the person doing them as they are to the others. Also, how many nights a week do you play Xbox with your friends? I've brought it up to him, but I'll admit that I've never actually sat down and talked to him about it. He's not exactly the let's talk about our feelings type, so I've been putting it off, but it needs to be done. And usually around 1 to 2 times a week, schedules depending. You might consider taking 2 hours and listening to Breen Brown's podcast with Harriet Lerner about apologies and forgiveness. Lerner talks about a similar dynamic she had with her father and sister. It's really good, and it could help set up good expectations for what a convo with your dad might be like, and what you want out of it. Best of luck. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one today. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I would love you to subscribe because I love your face and I love seeing you here every single day that you are here in this video. I don't know what else to say today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. I do have a second channel that's called Markee 2. Link should be up on the screen somewhere here if you don't have adblock installed. If you don't know where to find the channel, you can go to my main page. Just click on the Markee face and it should be on the right, somewhere there, or on channels if you're on phone. Hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.